You tell us where we're going.
Well, we're live now. Okay. And we are live. Welcome to the Hardpill Network, where we seek the truth and help men get better in their finances, relationship, and fitness. Quick announcement. This channel has not been monetized, so if you want to support the show, you can do well to do that through our PayPal. The link is in the description below. Also, follow Hardpill Network on all social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like the video, and share with your friends and family. Also, all donations will be used to give you all a better quality show. We'll get better mic and camera and all of that. Okay. Okay. So, Frank, welcome to the show. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, brother. How are you?
I'm great, man. Thank you for coming to the show, man. Really
Yeah, man. I
appreciate it.
appreciate the invite and an opportunity here tonight.
All right, Frank. For those that may not know who you are, can you introduce yourself to the people?
Absolutely. Yeah. Frank Rich, also known as Coach Frank here, CEO and founder of Rebuilt Recovery. I'm the host of the Superhuman Life, and it is my mission here in this world to help men become better men by quitting porn and rebuilding their lives. So, just like the title video here says tonight, that's what we're about. That's what we do with our company and organization, Rebuilt Recovery. We have a few different programs and offerings, but we work very closely with guys, helping them, break the chains of pornography addiction. But more importantly, like you are on the mission to do here, it's really about becoming a better man. Because I don't think strong, passionate, purpose-driven men struggle with pornography. So we try to provide the guys with those tools. And then on the podcast side of things, we bring on experts, coaches, entrepreneurs, authors across the board, really providing guys with tools to level up in the 5 key areas of their life. So we like to talk about faith, fitness, finances, family, but more importantly, the freedom that we're all pursuing in this world.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Can you tell us about your background and your origin story?
Absolutely, man. Yeah. So I'll try to keep this kind of quick here. Then you can answer or ask any follow up questions. I have a background in health and fitness. I was a competitive bodybuilder for about a decade, from 2008 to 2017. But I think probably why I'm here tonight is because I struggled with a pornography addiction for almost 20 years. I got introduced to it, which is very common with men that are addicted. It was very early exposure. So that is one of the things that we know, that guys that struggle with pornography, oftentimes it's, or I don't want to say it's due to the early exposure, but what we've seen, and this is kind of some data points here, is most men that are struggling did have that early age exposure, because our brains are not really meant to begin to consume some of these things. So I had about a 20-year addiction. And then in the beginning of 2019, I really started to get control of that. And as I got a few months on the other side of my pornography addiction, for me, Armstrong, the world began to change. How I saw the world,
Mm,
how I saw myself showing up in the world, but more importantly, how I saw people. I think what pornography does is it places people as objects. And there's some science that supports
mm,
this. When you look at pornography, the part of your brain that is activated is the parts that are associated with objects. So like a cup here or a bottle that's sitting on my desk. When I see that, my brain says object. But when I see you or when I see people in the real world, there's a whole different part of the brain that's meant to light up. But through the consumption of pornography, and this is what
yeah.
leads to the addiction, is you begin to see people as objects. So for me, getting on the other side of my pornography addiction in early 2019, like I got to tell people about this, because if we go back 4 years, there weren't a lot of guys having this conversation. There weren't a lot of people actually talking about the dangers. There weren't a lot of people talking
Yeah.
about the impact that it had on them. So that became my mission early on, was to just have the conversations, provide a place where we could really get vulnerable and get real with people. And that was in July of 2019. Our show launched on July 8th. That was episode 1, which is the entire journey of in my kind of personal story. So anybody that really wants the full kind of compass of that story, check out episode 1 of the Superhuman Life. But as we got a couple months into having the show, we got picked up. Apple recognized us. We started to gain some traction.
Mm,
And as more and more people were
whoa.
consuming it, a lot of guys started to reach out to me. A lot of young guys like yourself, a lot of guys that probably follow you that are struggling, but didn't have a place to go. Because like I said, if we go back 4 years, the conversations that you have on your show, the conversations that you
Yeah.
create, they weren't as regular. You know, like
Yeah,
it's been
exactly.
amazing what we've seen in the last couple of years. But going back 4 years ago, man, it's like not a lot of guys were doing this. So as guys were reaching out, asking for help, it was January of 2020, January 28th. I remember the date to be exact, the day that we took on our first couple clients. And that really became the beginning of Rebuilt Recovery. Now, at this point, we've had thousands of guys go through our programs. We've had hundreds of success stories. And it's really been
Awesome.
transformative work, man. You know, we've restored relationships. We've created marriages. We've had many guys that have been engaged through our program. We've had guys at the end of the program literally walk down the aisle with their new wives. We've had babies being birthed out of our program. We've had guys create new
Whoa.
businesses. We've had guys create partnerships. Real powerful community, man. So yeah, hopefully that kind of answers your question there of like who I am and how I kind of ended up here today.
Awesome, awesome. So why do you think men get addicted to porn?
Why?
Yeah, why?
I think it's due to a multitude of reasons. I think, for one, I think it's a lack of understanding and a lack of education around the topic. You know, right? It's like talked about it here many times already. Like it's not at the forefront of people's brains. And if we go even a layer deeper, clinically, so there's this book in the clinician world. It's called the DSM-5, and this is what kind of highlights and recognizes all
Yes, I'm
addiction.
fine.
Pornography addiction, the DSM-5, is not actually recognized. And I think that that's due to multiple reasons. But I think the first reason is why men get addicted is due to lack of understanding or the education or the awareness around the topic. Now I'll tell you, like, I actually think that I don't want to say we're created to be addicted to pornography, but I think pornography is the perfect drug for the male brain to get addicted to because it pulls on all the levers that are necessary to create an addiction. There's a novelist or novelty stimulus component, right? Every new image creates a new stimulus, a new novelty stimulus. That's how our brains are wired, is to seek out novelty. It obviously tugs on the emotional component because you're bringing people into it and you kind of feel like you're getting this relationship component, but it's also done in secrecy. There's a great organization out there
Yeah.
called Fight the New Drug that talks about the three dangers of it. They call them the big 3 A's. And I think the first one is the accessibility of it. The fact that every young boy here today and every human being is walking around with a smartphone in their pocket is basically a drug dealer. Like I'm 40, I'll be 40 next month. My introduction to pornography was looking at a magazine. If I would have had a cell phone in my pocket as a kid, there's no telling how deep and dark it wouldn't have been. So the fact that it's so accessible and we can get it at the push of a button. The second big A is affordability. It's free or very, very cheap. I mean, there's endless millions and millions and millions of videos online for free. Where if you're struggling with drugs, if you're struggling with alcohol, if you're struggling with gambling, if you're struggling with other types of addictions, you need resources. You need money to be able to go get those things. Pornography can
Yeah.
be done in secrecy and privacy without having to spend a dime. And that brings us to the third A. So the third big A is the anonymity components. You know, if you were struggling with alcohol, people in your life, your relationships, they would begin to know. Your breath would stink, you begin to slur your words, exterior, you would begin to change there as well. Same thing with
Yeah.
drugs. Like the look of an individual begins to change. I struggled with a pornography addiction for 20 years, and not a single person in my life knew about it. The people I was living with, the people that were in my family, none of my
Whoa.
friends knew about it. So the fact that it's so private and secrecy. So I think the big three reasons is the affordability, it's free, the accessibility, it's everywhere, and the
Accessibility.
anonymity. Nobody's going to know about it.
Whoa, that's crazy. So what are the negative side effects of, porn addiction?
Yeah, well, the negative side effects of addiction, I think, are
What?
going to be individualized. I think it's going to appear in every guy's, like it's going to appear differently in every guy's life. Like an addiction is going to impact me differently than it would impact you. I can
Okay.
tell you the negative effects of consuming pornography. The first one is, excuse me.
Sorry about that.
So the negative effects of consuming pornography is an endless supply, right? I think number one, it hijacks your dopamine, it hijacks your reward center. We talk about brain fog a lot. We talk about how it lowers men's energies. It can lead to porn-induced erectile dysfunction. I was just on a conversation with a guy earlier today. They just enrolled into our program. 45 years old, has fathered 6 children, been watching pornography for almost 30 years. And just recently, he's been having performance issues. Like, he literally has a hard time getting an erection with his wife. So porn-induced erectile dysfunction is a major problem. It obviously, I talked about how it changes your brain and you begin to see people as objects, not really as human beings. I mean, the list is endless, right? Motivation, drive, isolation. It forces people into an isolated. But then you got to think about internally, what's it doing to a guy? Every single guy that's addicted knows that there's something wrong with it, but he's still participating in it. He's not going to talk about it. So this guy's living with guilt. He's living with shame. He doesn't like who it is. It batters his self-confidence. I mean, we could go on and on and on and on, but hopefully that kind of answered your question there.
You mentioned dopamine. So for some people that may not know what dopamine means, can you please define it for them?
Yeah, dopamine is, and I'm not a neuroscientist. There's great people out there that can explain this probably better than I can. But dopamine is a neuromodulator or a normal chemical that is in our brain that is meant to be released when we're in the pursuit of our goals. A lot of people call it a pleasure chemical. So when you do something that makes you feel good, that's dopamine. Like if you've ever been gambling and you hit the jackpot, that rush of euphoria, that's dopamine. If you've ever jumped in an ice bath and just that rush of euphoria, that feeling of being alive, that's dopamine. If you've ever been thinking about or working towards something and it's like, I can't wait to get there, I can't wait to get there, that anticipation, that's dopamine. So the chemical that's tied to pursuit, it's tied to motivation, and it's tied to reward is the chemical of dopamine. You there?
Yeah, I'm there. Okay. You kind of freezed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. So how does watching, porn affect men's mental health?
Yeah. Well, I talked about a couple there, right? If you know what you're doing is wrong, yet you continue to do it and you don't have control, chances are that you are living in shame because there's a part about you that you do not like. So it creates this layer of guilt and shame that a guy cannot begin to break through. And here's the tricky thing with shame, man, is like shame is literally you telling yourself you're a bad person. Like that is the definition of shame. I'm bad because of the things that I do. So if you're watching pornography and you're ashamed of it, that means that everywhere that you go, you're showing up with the identity of a person that believes that he's a bad person. Now we talked about dopamine, motivation, pursuit, reward, right? If I'm getting all of that from watching pornography, then I don't need to be motivated to go do anything. I don't need to pursue anything, and I'm not going to get reward from anything. So on top of the guilt and shame, I think the real impact that it has is the lack of focus, the lack of drive, the lack of meaning about who I actually am. I mean, it completely begins to rip a man's identity apart. So yeah, it completely tears it apart.
Are you good? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why this thing is kind of freezing over here, but it's good. All right. In one of your podcasts in Jeremy, you talked about super normal stimulus. So can you expand more on that?
Absolutely, yeah. So supernormal stimulus. This was birthed out of a research study that they did in Stanford University. And what they were studying is they were studying mating patterns of male butterflies. And the researchers knew two things about mating patterns for butterflies. They knew that the male attraction to female butterflies was based upon the size of their eyes and the color and the vibrancy within their wings. So male butterflies are attracted to the females that have big, beautiful eyes and bright, vibrant colors on their wings. So that's what they knew going into it. Okay. But they wanted to study this, so they set up an ecosystem. And what they began to do is they created this ecosystem. They put a lot of real butterflies in there. Throughout the study, they started to drop fake artificial butterflies with bigger eyes, because once again, males are attracted to big eyes and bright wings. So these artificial butterflies that they started to inject into the research study had bigger eyes and more vibrant colors on their wings than any of the natural butterflies. And slowly over time, what this ended up doing is all the male butterflies would try to mate with the fake butterflies. And if you play this out long enough, if they all stopped mating, that's the end of the butterfly species. And this coined the term supernormal stimulus because it was beyond normal. It was beyond what I would see in the real world. Like it was super. Okay. So pornography, in terms of how it affects our brain, is a supernormal stimulus. The level of dopamine that we get, the stimulus response when we sit down and begin to watch pornography is abnormal. Nothing in the natural world will create it. They can get artificial hardcore drugs that will create similar types of effects, but sitting down watching videos on a screen creates an abnormal or supernormal beyond what the normal amount of stimulus should be. And it was all coined out of that term. Now, what does this do to a man's brain, right? So if I'm training myself that I get off on watching videos, then when I'm in the real world and I have an opportunity to engage in intimacy and sexual act with a real woman, my brain is wired for this over here. So this is going to do nothing for me over here.
Wow, wow, wow. So how can one break free from porn addiction?
Yeah, stop watching it, right? Here's the thing though, man. That question, like it needs to be rephrased because no guy struggling with pornography has an actual problem with pornography. Okay, so if you go into trying to break free with the goal of quitting porn, you will fail. What you have to realize is the pornography addiction is a manifestation or is a symptom of other problems in your life. Okay, problems with self-regulation, problems with intimacy, problems with meaning, problems with purpose, problems with passion, problem with pursuit. So the goal to break free is to identify what that hole is, identify what the root cause of it is, and fill that. And if you fill the hole of what the root cause is, you kick the pornography problem out of the way. But it's never about how do I stop watching pornography? Because that's simple. Stop looking at the damn videos. Like seriously, it really is that easy. But there's a root issue that's driving it. So you have to get to the root of what that problem is and then solve it from there. Could be based upon sexual trauma. That hasn't really been my experience with the vast majority of the men that I work with. Some of times they've been traumatized early on, but I think every human being has some element of trauma. And how do you transcend your trauma? You rewrite that story, you rewrite that narrative. But you got to identify what the root is. What hole in your life are you trying to solve with pornography? Begin to solve that hole or fill that hole without pornography. So if I'm running to pornography because I feel I need connection, okay, I need to go create connection and intimacy in my life without pornography. If I'm running to pornography because I'm lacking purpose and meaning in my life, I need to go find purpose and meaning. If I watch pornography because I think I'm a fat piece of shit, then stop being a fat piece of shit and change the way you see yourself. So the goal is always to figure out what the root of the problem is. What hole are you trying to fill with pornography? Fill that hole without pornography. And that's how you transcend it. That's how you ultimately break free. And this is with anything. This is with anything in your life, not just pornography. You're trying to quit drinking. What hole is drinking solving in your life? You have a problem with gambling. You have a problem with shopping. You have a problem with whatever the case may be. Eating Doritos. Figure out what hole you're trying to fill by eating those Doritos and fill that hole without the Doritos.
Whoa, awesome, awesome. So, recovery and rebuilding after quitting porn involves addressing underlying issues and developing new habits. Now, how can men identify and address these root causes? What are the strategies that can be used to facilitate long-term transformation?
Yeah, I wrote a book. It's called The 7-Step Guide to Living Life Without Pornography. So I would recommend anybody that's watching this start there because I'll do my best to kind of give some action steps here. First thing is is asking yourself some tough, serious. Well, I would say actually the first thing is actually admitting to yourself that, yeah, I do have a problem. My life changed, Armstrong, in 2019 when I actually looked in the mirror and said, Frank, you're a fraud. Frank, you're a liar. Frank, you actually have a problem with pornography. Accepting that oftentimes is the first step in guys beginning to create freedom in their life. I will tell you a major part of this that so many guys miss out on, though, is finding the right type of community. You know, there's a saying that comes out of 12 steps, that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, but it's the community and the connection that you build in your pathway to sobriety. We talked about at the beginning how isolation is a major driver of this. We do it alone when it's dark and we're in our bedroom all by ourselves. Well, if you're having a problem doing things when you're by yourself, you need to create community around you. You need to get community because we need community. We're wired for it. It fills us up. It lights us up from the inside. But more importantly, you need guys in your life that are cheering you on. You need guys in your life that are going to say, hey, man, you got this. You don't need to give into this. You also need guys that are going to hold you accountable. When you say you're going to do something, when you say you're going to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to the gym, did you actually get up at 6 o'clock and go to the gym? And if you didn't, do you have people in your life that are holding you accountable, that are checking in on you? So I think finding the right type of people in your life that you can have real conversations with, which obviously if guys are watching this, they're already beginning to go down that pathway. But admit it to yourself, man. Definitely be honest and radical about yourself. But then you got to go through this process, man. And it's not like a flip of a switch, right? Like, you know, the book will walk you through it. So anybody that wants that, it's at the 7stepguide.com. But it's identifying the triggers. What actually triggers me? What am I running to? Asking the questions. When I'm chasing pornography, what is it that I think that I'm going to get? Ask yourself that question. Like, why am I pulling these videos up? What am I doing? What feeling am I trying to create? What hole am I trying to fill? I think the process of recovery is really about learning to ask and answer really important questions, really tough questions with yourself. But oftentimes, so many guys, it's due to lack of purpose, lack of meaning, or having something really significant that they're working towards. So you gotta have things outside of your life you gotta have things outside of yourself that you're working on building. I mean, I can tell you, Armstrong, you're probably not struggling with something right now. And if you are, you're on your path to breaking through from it because you have something that is bigger than you. You're building this hard pill network. I can see the passion in your eyes. I could hear it when you first reached out to me. Like, you're really passionate about helping these young men. So you got something that you wake up for, that you work towards creating every single day. So when your head hits a pillow at night, you feel fulfilled. The guy that's watching pornography is going to an office 9 to 5. He's not going to the gym. Maybe he's got a family, but he's not really engaged with the family. So when he hits the bed every night, he's like, damn, I didn't really accomplish anything today. Let me go numb myself and sedate myself with pornography and masturbation. So yeah, I don't know if I really answered the question there, but hopefully that.
You did justice to that. Now, when it comes to, you know, overcoming porn addiction, of course, one needs to, you said it yourself, so one needs to, you know, have a clear vision for himself. So what are the steps to creating a clearer vision for oneself?
Ask yourself, what do you want? What do you want out of this life? If you and I could jump in a time machine and fast forward to 5 years, July 17th, 2028. In the ideal world, what would your life look like? What would you look like? What would your job look like? How big would Hard Pill Network be? Okay. And then go through every stage of your life. The 7-step guide will walk you through how to do this. But I think we got to get clear, not just on the life that we want. Here's the thing, is a vision is not a set of goals. And I think that's what a lot of people mix up. They say, I had this vision where I want to make $100,000. I want to be 8% body fat, and I want to marry my dream wife. Those are goals. Like those are goals. What does that actually feel like? What does it taste like? What does it touch like? What does it feel like? What does that life smell like? Begin to define those things. But once you define what the life is that you want, the vision becomes, who do you need to be in order to create it, right? So if I had a vision, I want to make $1 million a year, but the most money I've ever made in my life is $250,000. That means that there's a gap in my skill set and ability of $750,000. So my vision needs to be me becoming the man that fills that gap. Okay. And then it's asking the next question. Okay, what is required to fill that gap? What knowledge don't I hold? What connections don't I yet have? What opportunities do I need to take? What risk do I need to take? So if I have a vision of being a porn-free man, which is the language that we use, we help our men become porn-free men. What does that look like? It's 2028. What time in the morning does a porn-free man wake up? What is his morning routine? Who's the first person he texts and calls? What's his job look like? What's his relationship with his wife? What's his relationship with his kids? Where's he going to work? What's his day-to-day life look like? Define that. So define the life, and then the vision becomes in you figuring out who you need to be in order to create it. If I wanted to be in the NBA, right? My vision would literally have to be go back in time and be birthed to new parents, because I wasn't given the genetics to play in the NBA. Okay, now that's obviously that's kind of out of like picture example, but it hopefully clearly painted picture. Is it's not just about a list of goals. It's who do you need to actually be in order to accomplish said list of goals. So what knowledge am I lacking? What skill sets? What relationships do I need? What people do I need to know? What opportunities? What courses do I need to sign up for? What do I need to invest in? What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to start doing? What books do I need to read? What videos do I consume? What videos don't I consume? Do I have Netflix? Do I even watch TV? Asking and answering the tough, difficult questions once again.
Wow, awesome. Now, many men face societal pressures and stigma surrounding porn use and addiction. Now, how can men navigate these external influences while maintaining focus on their personal growth and recovery?
Yeah, man. If you're letting outside circumstances dictate what you do in your life, like you're never going to succeed, and you're never going to get the life that you ultimately want. Like you got to stop playing the victim. Like there's if you're struggling with something in your life, if you're struggling with a pornography addiction, who cares what other people think about it? Who cares? This is your life. That's the problem, man, is like everybody's so caught up in everybody else's shit and not worried about themselves.
Exactly.
Once again, my life changed when I got real open and honest, because I was a liar for 35 years. I got into bodybuilding, man, honestly. Like I became a bodybuilder because I didn't like who I was inside. And instead of changing that person, I built an exterior of a person that I thought people wanted me to be. And dude, that was the most miserable place of my life, because who I was presenting was not who I was.
Inside.
We got to be real. We got to be authentic. And who the fuck cares about society pressures? Who the fuck cares about what other people think? This is your life. Exactly. And if you're not willing to actually do the work, nobody else is going to do it for you. Here's the thing, man. Like the world wants you addicted to pornography. Society wants you addicted to pornography. So if you're going to allow that to be the limiting factor as to why you break free, brother, you're not going to win this game, man. You're not, and I'm not talking about the game of pornography addiction. I'm talking about the game of life. This is a more important life question. We've been given one of these. Like, what an amazing gift we have, this one life. But if we let any external factor outside of us dictate, control, decide what it is we do, brother, you're not playing the game the right way. And you are living in a victim mindset. So it probably wasn't the answer that you wanted, but I don't think any of that shit matters.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so children, kids, they get introduced to porn earlier. I think between the ages of 8 to 11. So how does parents have this conversation with them? Like,
yeah, any kid, any teenager that's addicted to pornography, it's the parents' fault. I will say that here. I don't know how many parents are going to watch and consume this, but if you have children and they're addicted, it's your fault. But you asked, how do you have the question? Like, you have it. There's great tools and resources. They're not ours. I would point most parents to a book called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. It's written in a way that you can begin to have this conversation with kids as young and as little as 4, 5, 6 years old. What they need to understand is they need to understand themselves. They need to understand sexuality, and that stuff needs to be talked about at home. But they also, the boys, more importantly, needs to understand that there's a force and there's a drug out there that is coming after them, literally coming after them through social media, through downloads, through YouTube, through society at large. So if we don't have the conversation, that's your fault, parents. But how do you have it? Have it early. Don't wait and have a reactive conversation. Because if you wait until the kid sees it and then he's curious and he doesn't know where to go, you're already too late. So I think getting in front of it. But the best resource out there that I'm aware of is called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. There's a lot of great organizations out there. I don't think the church is doing a fantastic job with handling it. But I would say have it early, have it young, have it often. I had a gentleman on my podcast, Chris McKenna. He founded the organization called Protect Young Eyes. One of the things that really jumped out to me on the show with him, Armstrong, was he said pornography should be the most common word in every single home. Young kids should know what it is. They should know what it isn't. They should know who they go to talk to when they see it. Because it will happen. You said it there. The average age of first exposure is 8 to 11 years old. So if you don't have that conversation and some kid shows it to them at school and they don't know where to go, they're going to bottle that up. They're not going to go talk to you. And then they'll return back to it because it made them curious and it made them interested. And now you have a problem at hand. So have it as early as you possibly can. That's how you do it.
Wow. Good, great. Now, I know you offer mentorship and coaching and all of that. So how do you tailor, your coaching approach to meet the specific needs and circumstances of each man seeking to quit porn and rebuild their life?
Yeah, well, we have a couple different ways that we work with guys. We do have one-on-one coaching. So in our one-on-one coaching, we individualize it and we work in a one-on-one capacity. So in our one-on-one calls, it's like, boom, it's exactly what's going on with you. We have groups and communities and all that other good stuff. Like all that, boom, is there. What makes the coaching truly unique? I was asked this recently. I was asked this on a consultation call. Frank, what makes your program different than everybody else, right? You're seeing a lot of coaches and stuff like there. There's a lot of great YouTube channels, a lot of great organizations. I've interviewed many of them. I've had half a dozen fellow coaches just like me on my podcast because I want to share their message. But what makes our stuff different? And the gentleman asked me this. He said, Frank, I'm looking at a lot of different programs. What makes yours unique? And I struggled at first to answer the question because I didn't want to really sound too prideful and egotistical. But truthfully, Armstrong, what makes us unique is me. And here's what I mean by that is I don't think that there's another person in the world that is qualified to do the work at the level that I do it. For 20 plus years, I have been coaching, leading, mentoring, and helping people transform their lives in many different industries. I got a background in health and fitness. I spent 15 years as a trainer and coach. I spent 6 years building an online business. I spent 10 years working in corporate America as a sales coach, a sales leader, a sales presenter, a sales manager, an executive coach, an executive leader, and a sales recruiter. My job in this world since I've been working has always been to guide, coach, and lead human beings. I think we're all given certain gifts and skill sets. I believe I've been given or blessed with the ability to lead, coach, and manage individuals. So I see things in people that most people don't see. I'm trained as a coach, so I know how to ask the right tough questions. I also was a really good liar, like for a very, very long time, very good at lying. So I'm able to identify people's BS, like the BS meter just goes off. Like, so I know when people are not being open and honest. So I think the secret sauce is myself. And I know that probably sounds super egotistical, but I'm a personal brand and that's what I'm building and that's my answer and I'm sticking with it.
Wow, awesome. So can you share some success stories or testimonials from men who have worked with you to quit porn and rebuild their lives?
Yeah, man. I love this question because we have so many of them. One that I think about all the time though is a young man by the name of Chiago. So Chiago and I worked together. It was during the pandemic, so I think it would have been in 2021. So the world was still kind of shut down. He lived in Canada, which was on lockdown, way more intense than it was here in Florida. But Thiago came to me because he was getting engaged, or he was engaged, and he had 4 months till his wedding day. Thiago was also in med school, so he was incredibly busy. So med school student, planning a wedding while in lockdown. What was amazing though is he became so hyper focused and organized on the daily tasks that he became a professional and like an expert at time management. So much, so great at it that he actually ended up launching a business. So in the span of 4 months, this young man, Thiago, and I broke his pornography addiction. He's still years, I spoke to him a couple months ago, he's still years free. He planned a wedding and got married, succeeded in med school, at least for the semester that he was in it, and he launched a business that became profitable, okay, in a short window of time. We had another gentleman that we actually had the video on our YouTube channel. It's one of our last videos that we put up there, but it was David. David was a sheriff here in Tampa, Florida. So he was a local guy, which is unique because I don't always get to work with guys that are local to me. But he was married to his high school sweetheart. They had 2 kids, both in high school. And what prompted him to reach out to me is his wife presented him with lease papers for an apartment that she was ready to move into. By the end of that 4 months, we did a like a mini documentary at their home. I was able to interview both him and his wife. He was reading the Bible every day. He was engaged with his kids. He was going on daily walks with his wife and weekly date nights. Like, we created so much intimacy within that marriage. They literally told us we feel like we're in high school again. The love that we have for each other feels like the day that we first met. He's shown up as a strong father. He lost 30 plus pounds. It was transformative, man. I could go on and 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 on. But that's it, man. These guys get closer to God. They get closer to their wives. Some of them launch new businesses. Some of them get in shape. We had another pastor. He actually won a challenge that we did, $2,500 cash prize. Got shredded, like from a beer gut to like a shredded 6-pack in a span of 4 months. It's individualized, because like I said, every guy is coming to us with a different problem in his life. Some of them, we need to focus more on fitness. Some of them we need to focus more on the inner healing side of things. Some of them we need to focus on getting them lined up with real business or purposes in their lives. So yeah, so many of those. Love that question.
Awesome. Now, for those that are out there that are really, really struggling to come out of porn addiction, they've tried every means, they've attended every coaching program and all of that, but still they're struggling with it. Like, what message you have for them? Like, what can they do?
Yeah, man. I think it starts with belief. I think most men fail at breaking this because they lack the belief that they will actually be free. I mean, think about it. If you're a man and you're in his mid to late 20s and you've had this problem in your life for, let's say, 15 years, and for 15 years you've been ashamed of who you are, and you don't like this part about you, and you've tried many times, you've gone on the no-fat forums, you've tried to white knuckle this, you've tried some different programs, but you're still struggling. That means that for 15 years you've been saying you want to do something, or you're saying you want to stop doing something, yet you keep returning back to it. And what I know about the subconscious mind, that is literally you saying, no, I don't do the things that I say that I do. And that begins to eat away at our internal belief, how we view ourselves. If I said for 15 years that I'm trying to break this and I haven't yet done it, chances are I don't believe that I can actually do it. So any guy out there that is watching or hearing this, you have to believe. First off, know that you're not alone. Data shows us 70% of men consume pornography on a regular basis. And out of those 70, about 40% of them are struggling with a behavior that's beyond their control. So about 25 to 30% of the men walking the earth today are struggling with the same problem that you have. So recognize and understand that you are not alone, but you have to believe. You have to come from a place that when I say I'm going to quit, I actually believe the words that are coming out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, looking ahead, what do you see as the future of the conversation surrounding porn addiction and recovery? How can we continue to raise awareness and support individuals on their path to healing and rebuilding?
Yeah. What can we do first is continue to have these conversations, share this, don't, and I love that you didn't do it, but a lot of times I get an interview and they're like, yeah, we're gonna have the taboo subject. Just get out there. Guys that are struggling and want to change the world, though, I think Jordan Peterson gives us a perfect step there. Clean up your own house before you could try to go out and change the world. So don't try to go start telling other people they need to stop watching pornography if you're still struggling it in your life. So start there. Start by cleaning up your own house. Now you ask the question, what do I see the future of it? That one is dark because I don't think it's going anywhere for a very, very long time. I think that there are forces beyond us that are driving this, that want to keep it here. I think if you pair it with human trafficking and you look at sex exploitation, which in my opinion includes trafficking and pornography, it is one of the greatest forces of evil here in the world. And we also know that pornography has been at the forefront of really leading most of our technological revolutions. So the internet grew as quickly as it did due to pornography. Virtual reality grew as quickly as it did due to pornography. And I think artificial intelligence will grow at a much rapid rate due to pornography. So I don't see it going anywhere. Like, it is here, and it's a problem that we're gonna have to continue to address and continue to talk about. Now, what we do is we raise our voices, right? We have the conversation. We first clean up our life, then we begin to live through values, morals, and principles that this is not something that we want even in our life. I'm not friends with people that watch pornography. Like, you wanna be my friend? Clean your life up, okay? Exactly. So start there. But start at home, build a life worth pursuing, create values and principles that you live by, but understand it's probably going to be here for a while. So we need to continue to have this conversation as much as we can and hopefully get in front of it with the next generation before it creates what we're already looking at right now.
Wow, awesome. This has really been an awesome conversation, man. So what are your last thoughts? And where can people find you?
Yeah, guys here on YouTube, check out, I have a personal YouTube page. It's been on somewhat of a hiatus this year. We'll be relaunching that in the next month or so. We're just working on some new studio updates. So you can find my YouTube channel at Coach Frank Rich. I'd also check out the podcast. You know, we have a podcast YouTube page as well, the Superhuman Life podcast, but we're really big on the audio. So you can find us anywhere at the Superhuman Life, Spotify, Apple, all the platforms. Instagram, you can find me at Coach Frank Rich. You know, feel free to give us a follow. I post daily videos, daily insights, a lot of real practical tips. And if you have questions, like, hit me in the DM. Like, I respond to every single message personally in my inbox. It just may be a day or two till I get to you, depending on how influx there is there. Final thoughts, man. I'm thankful for you for opening up your platform here tonight. This is a conversation that I'm very, very passionate about. But guys, if you're out there and you're struggling, like, we can help, and you're not alone, and you need to believe in yourself. So yeah, those are my final thoughts, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, awesome. You talked about your book. So how can people get your book?
Yes, the 7stepguide.com. 7 is spelled out, so the SEVEN stepguide.com. Just put your name and email in there. It's a digital ebook. We'll send it over to you right away. No cost, no charge, nothing. Boom. The 7stepguide.com.
Awesome. So guys, you heard Frank. If you want to reach out to him, you can do that on Instagram. Also, check out his podcast, Superhuman Life, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so Superhuman Life podcast. You can check it out on Spotify. Also, check out his YouTube channel. And yeah, so we've come to the end of this show. So thank you for those that came along. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast. Also, if you want to support the show, you can do that through our PayPal. It's in the description below. Every donation you make will be used to give you a better quality show. Okay, so Frank, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming to the show. We love you and really appreciate your message. Thank you so much. And guys, peace.
Thank you, brother.